world, and welcome to another riveting episode of the Not For Nothing podcast, while we're everywhere and nowhere at the same time, with your esteemed host, Stevens Ramirez. I'm thrilled to bring you an extraordinary guest today who embodies the essence of resilience, creativity, and devotion. Not just the run-of-the-mill photographer and videographer. He's a force to be reckoned with. Hailing from the breathtaking city of Seattle, Washington, he has captured the hearts and imaginations of countless individuals through his lens, but what truly sets him apart is his remarkable journey that has led him to this point. Before his artistic pursuits, Bobby selflessly committed himself to serving our country. As a military veteran, through his experience, he has not only developed an unwavering sense of discipline and determination, but also discovered the transformative power of visual storytelling. Having witnessed the raw emotions and unique narratives unfold before his eyes.
So I know you're in New York.
Wow. Cherished title as the loving father, his family fuels his creativity, infusing his work with the depth of emotion and authenticity that resonates with viewers on an incredible, profound level. On this episode, we will dive deep into Bobby's life, uncovering the challenges and triumphs that have shaped his path. From the front lines to the behind the camera, every step has contributed to the tapestry of his remarkable journey. Join us as we explore the fascinating intersection of service, creativity, and fatherhood, unraveling the stories. Please welcome our esteemed guest, Bobby Williams. What's up, brother? How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. That was a lot. That's a lot to
I know.
follow up on.
Oh man, I had to make sure, I'm like, I look at your body of work. I know you were dedicated and serving together. You're just like, all right, let me put all that hard work, devotion to duty into something that I'm passionate about. So I have to really make sure. I'm like, you know what? I got to bring him home and let people know who this guy is.
Well, thank you, man. It's definitely different than serving in the military.
Oh, yeah. I bet. I know going through A school, going to station, just transitioning. But besides we diving into that, we'll get to the military portion and the transition in further down the line. I would like to know, take us to the beginning of Bobby Williams. Take us to the time where you grabbed your first set of camera and you just captured your first shot. Take us there.
It's actually a funny story.
Yeah.
My very first camera that I got was, we went, you know what a swap meet is?
Yeah.
Okay. So my mom always frequented this swap meet all the time, and she developed these relationships with different vendors and different things.
Mm-hmm.
And she knew that I liked cameras and, I liked photography, but, she wanted to get me an expensive camera. So one of the vendors ends up getting this camera that was supposed to go to, you know how you buy shipments that were supposed to go to stores, but things get damaged and, you can't send them to the store.
Yeah.
So on this, it was this Fuji point and shoot camera that was on the shipment. And normally the camera, at the time, the camera was a $600-$700 camera. But the thing was that the screen was broken.
Mm-hmm.
And, with the screen being broken, it was, early times, touchscreen cameras were, it was just coming out. So the guy ended up just giving it to my mom, being like, yeah, if he could do something with it, then, then great, because I can't do anything with it. I can't sell a broken camera.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my first camera that I ever had. And I would just go around taking photos with this broken screen camera. It's kind of like, it kind of reminds me of like when I started shooting film,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to go and get, the photos processed and everything. So I'd
Yeah.
rush back to my computer and look what I shot. But
That's pretty dope.
that's how it started. Taking photos, like just using the imagination to take these photos, and not, you don't even know what you're shooting, like,
Mm-hmm.
completely, because
Mm-hmm.
I mean, unless you shoot with the camera a lot, your composition and everything for it.
Yeah.
But since it was brand new to me, and I'm just out there shooting with a broken camera.
Oh man, that must have been rough. But like, my question to you, bro, is like, how does photography help you see the world differently?
Well, I would say it's like it's a catalyst, with being able to see all aspects of life differently, from
Mm-hmm.
not just a creative realm. It's great taking pictures and saving those memories for people. But when you start to look at, like, I start to look at life in a different manner, you
Mm-hmm.
know, I start to look at business in a different manner.
Mm-hmm.
It's all these things that are put into one thing that make you see everything so much differently. I
Mm-hmm.
can no longer just go for a walk and, just be like, wow, that's a tree. It's much more than a tree. It could be a great photo. It could be the next, I'm not saying, everything is just a magical, work of art,
Mm-hmm.
but, just being able to see things in a different light is what I think photography does.
Wow. And for the viewers at home, I would like you to explain to them, like, the challenges of trying to capture the moment, because I know for artists who trying to, like, pick that right moment, like, okay, no, let me like be patient about it, let me see it through before you just take that quick essence. So walk the audience through that process.
Well, taking capturing that moment, that perfect
Mm-hmm.
moment, it's always it's very hard. I wouldn't say it's easy.
Mm-hmm.
But what I would say is, with technology, um, being able to shoot at a thousandth of a second, 4,000th of a second, they got cameras that are shooting at 80,000th of a second.
Wow.
You can't even fathom that, mid blink, just things like that. You know, it
you know
just, it makes it easier.
sorry to cut you, but
You're good.
like, just like you saying like a split second on the frame, where on social media there was like this guy that had this $13,000 lens to catch up a up super up close and raw detailed of a hawk,
Eagle.
and I
Oh
was
yeah.
just like, yo, that's insane. Just a fine detail, just on the, like, if you could see it up close without like the animal attacking you, of course, but it's just like, wow, heavy detail. And like, how does lighting contribute to the mood and the atmosphere for photography? Because I know, like, when you go out to ventures in certain locations, uh, many photographers stress on the essence of lighting.
Well, lighting makes and breaks things. Like if you
Mm,
look at my webcam here, I'm shooting on
yeah.
my computer's webcam. I
Hmm.
should have hooked up my camera to shoot. Um, but what it does is it allows for detail, to be in the photo or
Hmm.
video.
Hmm.
If it's harsh shadows, you lose that detail. You lose all that, and it starts to look grainy. Because now your computer, or your whatever you're shooting on, is trying to make
Hmm.
up for that. It's trying to make up for you know, kind of like your eye seeing in darkness.
Yeah.
Your mind starts to try to fill in the picture.
Hmm.
So that's what a camera does. And, unfortunately, with technology at its current state, it can't always be the best. So it turns out really grainy, or, looks like those 2003 photos.
Oh snap! But Bobby, I want to know, like, from your experience, because like I've seen your work on social media. Definitely, uh, audience guys, definitely follow Bobby. He produced really good work. How does a photographer's perspective and personal experience influence their work? Because I know how like some consumers or customers sometimes don't necessarily take the advice of photographers, especially those who have like on-field experience. Like, hey, I need you to stand on this portion. Oh no, I feel like I want to do this stance, and like kind of take away the essence what the photographer trying to aim for.
Well, to start that off, honestly, I'll be quite
Mm.
honest. I don't work for those people. Um,
Mm.
you know, if you're hiring a photographer, you're hiring them for their style, what they do, how
Mm-hmm.
they shoot it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I respect other photographers, and you know, I respect them for their work. So I don't try to emulate, you know, anyone else's work, because when you go into trying to emulate others' work, that's
Mm-hmm.
when the client can be like, oh, I expected this, but you delivered this, you know. So that's why I have my style that I've created, for myself, and
Mm-hmm.
um, clients, they hire me for that. If they hire me to try to emulate someone else's work, then that's when we go off the kind of like deep end, and
Mm.
it leads to them might not being satisfied with the work. I don't like that.
I know technology is an ever-changing thing, and the rise of AI, artificial intelligence. Do you feel like the advancement of technology is somewhat taking away the human essence or the human artistry?
I've heard a lot of different perspectives of that question.
Hmm.
And a lot of artists will be like, oh, it's taking away work, it's taking away this, it's taking away that. Um, in the photography realm,
Hmm.
honestly, AI has done nothing but make it easier. Um, you know, to remove certain objects out of the photo.
Hmm.
Photoshop just introduced this AI thing where you can, like, I have to send you this link later, and
Hmm.
this professional photographer, Peter McKinnon, tries to um, tell if he can tell what's real and fake in the photos. Like, super trained photographer,
Hmm.
tries to, piece out what AI has done.
Hmm.
So in the photography realm, no, it's just made it better, because we can do so much more with photos. Also, another side note to that, you can
Hmm.
never take away um, the service that a photographer brings to you know to an event, because robots and just AI in general,
Hmm.
it's great. You can set up a photo booth, but to have someone walking around, capturing different moments, that's going to take a lot more technology. So,
Hmm.
you know, my answer, remains that, photography, in the sense of editing, it's made it better. In the sense of, actually going out and taking the photos,
Hmm.
it's not doing much, because, like I said, you can't, fabricate someone walking around taking photos yet.
Wow, that's very insightful. And I know the process of editing because I know you're a businessman. You, from my understanding, start off like one man army because I'm in the same realm because like learning how to edit, learning how to like splice things, learning how to just do everything because even for me I learned per episode, like, oh, I can improve this way. I can add this module. I can do certain things where it's it's captivating the moment, and understanding like who am I talking to, what like know what information I'm trying to provide for the audience. And I know I could attest from our offline conversations where it's just like, hey man, hit record. Like you was always the one that kind of influenced me. It's like, yo, man, just don't worry about it. You learn along the way. You trip, you get up, you keep on going. Just hit record. And even now, it's like a lot of people don't know, like from my wife, from you, from my other acquaintances, not acquaintances, but brotherhood that I served with, like Maxwell, Paulo, AJ, the port, Chew, just a lot of people that influenced me. Just like, hey, you know what, I can do this. And I know from your line of work that it always like starts off with a crawl before you start running. Because when I saw your work and like seeing how you captured the bride and groom in the most highlighted moments, and like it's told like 1,000 stories in that one moment. So I'm just like, wow, this guy's really like doing his thing. And like from taking on the road trips, from traveling, like tell the audience of your experience of like traveling cross country, taking your business out on the road. Like walk us through there.
Well, first thing, traveling across country, is hard, but if you make it, the best that
Mm-hmm.
it can be,
Mm-hmm.
it really, takes it to another level. So the first thing I did was I had a cargo van and I
Mm-hmm.
reconstructed it into a tiny home so that we'd be comfortable, on the road and, traveling to do different weddings and,
Mm-hmm.
events, just, um, you know, trying to make it as, light as possible for, myself, wife and kid,
So traveling in a tiny home or a mobile home, how is that experience? Because like from like people like us that's like, hey, you know what, let's just take a tiny home and going through it. Like if we were to go back to the urban areas, yo, I got a tiny home in the car. What? Nah, I'd rather just stay in the block, bro. I'm not doing that. So like walk us through about that. Like how's that experience?
Well, honestly, I live in an apartment now, and I think it's like I don't think it's like massive. I think it's like 900 square feet or something.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but going from that to 80 square feet is very very intense, especially living that close to with anyone. You'll
Mm-hmm.
start to you'll start to you start to change. It starts to get harder, bumping into each other, to go to the bathroom, just anything like that, can
Mm.
really make things challenging. And I think that it was very hard, very very
Wow.
hard. We did it, full time actually, where we were just traveling, doing I was doing job after job in different places, bouncing from all the way down to Sacramento to back to Texas. I was traveling so much. So
Wow.
and if I would have done it differently, like buying plane tickets, it would have
Mm-hmm.
been a lot more expensive and a lot less comfortable. I think because going back to the same bed every night is actually more peaceful than what hotel were you going to stay at?
Wow. Wow, that's very insightful, and I know that probably made because I know you're already a determined man, and like resilient. That probably like solidify a lot of things, like making like solid decisions, and like what is this like within our expense? Can we do this while you're like working like back to back to back? And I know I've seen some of your work in your essence regarding of like videography. So how does videography differ from the other visual art forms? such as photography or cinematography?
Well, videography and cinematography, there's a certain level that, one has to be at to do
Mm-hmm.
those things, do those things professionally. And honestly, if you've seen, videos of mine, they're not the same level as photography. I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to close that gap. But at the same time, I still have to work on my craft, of videography.
Mm-hmm.
How it differs is it, photography. I've worked out so fast, how to edit a photo. And,
Mm-hmm.
I can edit photos quick.
Mm-hmm.
Weddings out, earliest probably 2-3 weeks. And with videos, I'm sitting out at least, depending on the video,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sitting at least a month, maybe a month and a half, and that's actively cutting, splicing every day. I'm putting 4 or 5 hours a day into these
Oh,
videos, and
I could only imagine like just like picking up where you left off, because like just the editing and splicing, like at first I'm sorry, but like at first I thought, oh, it's simple enough. I could do it. Like, a little cut and paste, a little reforming. No, you gotta get the shadow, the highlights, the contrast. And if you go want sound in your video, oh, okay, the loudness, noise reduction. I'm like, these are all extra things that I do not know. And now just like going through it and hearing the essence of your voice, like, hey, you know what, I could do it within this time frame. I could do it in that time frame, and knowing that I could just understand and envision, okay, yeah, this guy's just grinding every opportunity he gets, and then on to the next one. And
yeah,
that's the portion I'm like, yeah, I give you respect for.
sometimes it is like that, where you're like, right now I got I'm doing some real estate videos. So
Word?
I'm literally doing back to back projects, where I just did a Christmas party a few days ago. So I got real estate videos plus,
Uh huh.
Christmas project,
Mm-hmm.
um, and all things I'm trying to do before the holidays happen, so that I can take in the new year. I can breathe. That's all. It's all moving parts.
Wow. Well, I appreciate you taking your time out to jump on this podcast, because I know like a lot of you guys don't know, like Bobby and I, we've been putting in the works, the words, just like, hey man, let's collab, let's talk. And little that you guys know, like we've both been actively busy, like, me pursuing a higher form of education, him doing his conducting his business on his photography and videography. And what I want to ask, brother, like, I know you've been, like, how's the experience of recording, like from the Christmas parties, from the weddings, doing the real estate, like tell us the pros and cons of each of them, and like what was your wild moment where you're just like, yeah, this is not normal.
I think during the events it's great.
Mm,
Filming, getting the B roll, the C roll, all that good stuff.
mm-hmm,
Um, you know, it makes it very easy. The part that makes it very hard,
mm-hmm,
or the tribulations become,
yeah,
uh, it's when you start to have to put those videos together in your mind,
mm-hmm,
because you can sit there and record all day,
yeah,
but if you have no vision on how this video is going to happen, like how you
mm-hmm,
want it to flow, you know maybe even thinking of the song, beforehand,
mm-hmm,
of what songs you're going to put on there. Just combing through Artlist.io, all that, the non-copyrighted stuff.
mm-hmm,
You can really dive into this like deep pit of not knowing what to do.
mm-hmm,
And so that's where that's the hardest part. The hardest part is, coming back, sitting down and being like, how am I going to put this together?
Wow.
Because you can film all day. You can
Mhm.
you can take all videos all day, but once you come back to the editing mode,
Mhm.
that's when stuff gets hard.
Wow. What if you feel comfortable in sharing, like what editing programs do you utilize?
Oh, of course. Yeah, I mean, there's no secret to it. Uh, I use Premiere, Adobe Premiere,
Mm.
um, and that's it.
Okay.
For well, if you're asking also for like reels, like if
Mhm.
I'm making reels for Instagram or something like that, I use
Yeah.
CapCut. I use
Okay.
CapCut. It makes it simple. I
Oh
like
yeah,
simple.
yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, simplicity at its finest. Keep it simple, stupid. Like I use CapCut too. Just I'm like, I need to figure out how to do this within a budget, within like a reasonable time frame. And like, luckily, I came across Riverside. I came across CapCut. Like just trying to improve on every episode. And like,
Yeah.
I want to ask you, like, how can videographers create a distinct style or aesthetic that sets their work apart from others?
Well, just like photography,
Mm-hmm.
if you look at my photos, they might match someone else's work. You,
Mm-hmm.
you never know, but there's certain things that people implement into videography or photography that sets
Yeah.
them apart, which would be their editing style. Maybe they captured a certain b-roll. Maybe there's always some aspect that tells the viewer, hey, I made this.
Mm-hmm.
Like in every photo or video that I've made, there's something that tells them, you know, hey, I made this. It could be the way I make my shadows. It could
Mm-hmm.
be the way that I mask a certain subject, or
Mm-hmm.
don't mask a certain subject. It all depends.
Well, I didn't think about it in that aspect, because usually, like, even now for content creators or like Instagram influencers or TikTok influencers, like there there's like no surefire way. It's like you have to utilize other or be influenced by others' techniques to encapsulize like that video idea. Even I would say on my personal aspect, from like looking at your work, looking at other individuals' works, and like, okay, how did they do that? Like, where do they get the balance, the grid, the contrast, and try to incorporate that to make myself stand out more. And I think like learning from experienced veterans such as yourself out in that field, that actually like, hey, I'm grinding, I'm going out there, I'm working like every day, bam, 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 thank you, ma'am, and it's it's interesting to see, and it's very enlightened to know. And like your transition from like military to civilian, like how did you cope with that idea, like, hey, you know what, I'm already done with my service, I'm going to pursue something that I'm passionate about?
Well, it came with a lot of different things, a lot of different
Okay.
factors. You
Okay.
know, um, getting out of the military, having to deal with mental health and different things that I had to deal with getting out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think what really made me pursue this was I didn't see myself going to a normal job. I couldn't see myself working a 9 to 5
Mm-hmm.
because the idea of that it actually scared me. you
How
know
so?
Um, well, if there's people that knew me in the military, I always showed up late. I was I was the latest person, out there. Um, I couldn't show up on time for a lot of things,
Oh my God.
and um, that just that just correlates with how you know I realized that I didn't want to do things. Because if I
Mm.
want to do them, I'll be there. If I don't want to do them, I will drag my feet. I will, I will, I'll be the most late. Like, I'll be exactly on time.
I'm gonna push back on you on that one. I'm gonna push back a little bit on you on that one because in A school we was always on time. Uh, in A school, I know I was probably a pain in the backside because like my strong personality and how like everyone else was just like, oh come on Bobby, but now that I think about it, looking back, I was like, dang, this guy really held it down for all of us, even though we were all a bunch of jerks, so to speak. But we all graduated on time, with the exception of like one or two. But we're
I
not
don't
going to
remember.
disclose their if we were to involve 5-0, that's a different. We won't disclose too much. but but it's interesting to hear you say that because like on A school, BMA school, Bosun's mate, A school, it was a different Bobby from what I saw. I know Bobby was like on time, clear cut, try to make sure like everyone's in line, and of course with my funky like on beat cadences to switch it up and be the only one on the regiment. I still take that title, but it's refreshing and very insightful to hear that side because usually from my perspective and from everyone, we always saw you as a clear cut guy,
Well,
and I wanted to
okay.
just pick your brain a little bit, just a little bit, like how does the experience of military service shape a person's perspective on fatherhood? Like how did that? Excuse me. How did that like shape your ideals between like shifting from discipline, determination, respect, resiliency into being a loving father?
I think that one of the I think with military, honestly, this
Mm-hmm.
is just my opinion.
Yeah.
you know having a family and being in the military is very hard. I don't think I didn't like it, so I
Mm.
think that's where it really shaped my view of I don't want to do this. I don't want
Yeah.
to I don't want to be in the military. When I had my daughter, when I'm married, um there's just so much time away,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm realizing that now there's just so much time away that I don't want to be away. I don't want
Mm.
to have to go stand duty for 72 hours, because I'm counting down the time. I don't want to go on
Bruh.
a boat. I dodged being on a boat my whole entire career at zero sea time. And I
Oh my
couldn't even
God.
imagine being on a cutter for a month, 2 months. Is some people 6 months. That's crazy. That is
Yeah, yeah.
insane. I'm good.
You're sprinkling a lot of salt on me right now. I know I'm a salty sea dog, right? Like it's a whole different because you station, me cutter, all my career besides going to A school. I'm just like, man, I want what they call it station
Station
vacation.
vacation.
No, my little tough self, my little walnut self, freaking going into Cutter, Whitehall from a 270 to a 378. I was just like, wow, back to back. That's crazy. But no, I could definitely empathize with that because it's is difficult. Like I didn't have children when I was in the military. I was married, and I missed my wife. Like like damn, like I'm missing birthdays and all that stuff. In which that's what we signed up for. That's what we signed that dotted line. Like, hey, we're gonna miss birthdays, we're gonna miss anniversaries, we're gonna miss funerals, we're gonna miss Christmas. So it's just like a lot of things that a lot of people don't think that we really take to heart because it affects us a lot. And especially like for men like us that are married versus the single guys, in which I always advise, like, other people, even though I might get flack for this, I advise if you're single, then you can join the military. Marriage, I was like, even though you get more of your pay, but it's like you're taking a big pill, and like you're gonna strain yourself a little bit if everyone can understand that, because like you're gonna be like, oh man, like I'd rather be home than standing watch for 24 hours, than standing watch for 12 hours. And then, like, if you ain't relieved and the person is sick, then you end up standing their watch, and then you don't get no break time or nothing. So it's just like, oh, okay, like f me, I, you know. But Bobby, I know you talked a lot when we served, sharing, like, your experience of the love of your wife and your children, and like, what unique challenges do military fathers face when transitioning from military to civilian life? Because I want to hear those type of perspective. Because I transitioned without having kids, just myself and my wife before we started having our daughter. Like how have you transitioned from military to civilian as a
Well,
dad?
I mean, I'm still transitioning. It's been, I would say it's been almost, I got out in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and, it's been 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
But, I still think that it's a challenge. To say it's not a challenge is, you're lying to yourself. It's hard.
Yeah.
Especially, in the way that um, in the way that I transitioned, I think that I didn't necessarily have all the tools, and I
Mm-hmm.
had to learn a lot of things about how things worked on the outside. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I joined when I was 18, so I never had a normal job. I never had any experience in how to be an adult, outside of the military. Things were just pretty much given, in the military. You didn't have to worry about how healthcare works,
Yeah.
how you show up, you do your job, you get paid.
Mm-hmm.
Try not to mess up. You mess up, bad, then you don't get paid.
Mm-hmm.
You get
Yeah.
possibly kicked out. But,
Oh yeah.
um, transitioning from that,
Mm-hmm.
like the easier life to now I have to figure out how healthcare works. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
I don't, I didn't know how to get healthcare. I had to like Google these things.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of Google. If this was like, like our parents would say, back in our day, we didn't have Google. I'd
Mm-hmm.
be sitting, I'd be, on a lump, on a, it'd be bad.
Man, there's certain aspects where, like, we did took for granted in the military. Like, we had access, we had like a point of direction. Like, oh yeah, I know where I can get all I need right there back at base.
Yep.
And I think in that aspect um, where if they have a lot of information to help us, but they don't present it to us. You got to look for it. You got to talk to the right people who know certain situations, or knows, like, okay, this is the clause that you got to follow, and like, sign the shit and send it over. And it's like, it's like pulling teeth to get what you want. Like, I
Oh
didn't
yeah.
know that I could have been in school while serving, being active, or like, hey, I want to be an officer candidate, even though when I was leaving, I was presented officer candidacy, where like, I had captains and chiefs like, hey, we need people like you to hold people accountable. Like, I kid you not, like, I remember this, this sandbagger, like sandbagger full of freaking manure, Deming, and I'm gonna say his name, Deming, who really I kid you not, is a dude that really was like, oh, I'm gonna commit insanity. I want to get kicked out of the military. And as I pleaded with him, like, hey, you getting a dishonorable discharge is worse than you going to prison. I am letting you know that now. And he's like, man, I'm okay. I'm okay. You know what? I trust in faith in which, like, I believe in God too, but I also know, like, hey, I'm a reasonable person here. Like, like his actions almost, like, got people hurt. And no matter how many times, like, I made sure I stood by him and tried to lead him. And everyone saw the frustration that, like, I really was trying to, like, save this guy. Even Captain was like, yo, he's throwing you a life ring and you're really not taking it? Okay. And then that's when Captain's like, hey, Ramirez, you did your best. And like, we're going to let the law take it from here. So I'm just like, wow, I don't even know what he's doing right now. I know that from the last time when I was getting out, they were sending him to the brig. So I was just like, whoa.
Damn.
He's like,
Big time.
I'm going to get kicked out. Psych. Gotcha. We're going to send you to the brig. So yeah, from what I heard, his face, his whole body demeanor just like was defeated for trying to like, outsmart people or try to play the system. But
I think anybody would be defeated going to the break.
Oh yeah,
no
right.
one wants to go to the break.
No. A lot of people was like, oh yeah. I was like, oh, okay, I hear you. But I just want to pick in a little bit on like, regarding of mental health, because you mentioned like, your mental health was very important. And like, for us men, like, especially when we went through the military, especially like how society would tell us like, hey, tough it out or man up, so to speak, or like, how we were conditioned to suppress, gather, move forward. Suppress, gather, move forward. So it's just like, how was your mental health? Because I know it's still an ever working process. It's still like, no one got all the keys and the tools, but it's best to have those coping mechanisms. So how do you cope with your mental health?
I'm still working on that. The gathering tools to, be better with mental health, because, not everything is, simple as, do this, and then you'll be better.
Mm-hmm.
Like for myself, I have paranoid schizophrenia.
Wow.
Which, it surfaced, like at the end of my military career. I didn't know what it was. I had these things when I was younger, where I would, think, I'm not normal, but, society's standards, I am normal. So, I was okay. I was, all the way up until I was 20, I was like 23.
Mm.
And then I started seeing shadows.
So it must have been like, difficult. So, wow, that's very like surprising, because when we served, you're like, as you said, towards society standards, you perceive normal. I thought it was like, because like, I could like, I could say like, all right, Bobby, like, okay, Bobby being Bobby, just being like, hey guys, we got to do this. And I didn't know you probably was like facing a multitude of things at that moment, at that split second, and still like, perceived as normal. And how do you manage that part of you, that part of Bobby at this present moment?
Well, Medication. I take medication for schizophrenia. Schizophrenia, depression, anxiety, all these things, I take medication for.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing solves them. Nothing will, if you're hearing voices, nothing's going to stop you from hearing voices. Um, you know, they just don't have the medication for that.
Mm-hmm.
But, the medication makes it less bothersome.
Okay.
So, it makes it where, if you have anxiety, like, of, seeing shadows or, seeing figures, whatever you're experiencing, it depresses that, that fight or flight feeling.
Mm.
So, yeah,
Wow.
I,
Just you saying that, and it actually brought, like, a thought into my head, or more like it of an image. 'Cause I was like, okay, me hearing, like, you seeing shadows, and I kind of, I guess, incorporate your therapeutic practice, like doing, like taking control of that by doing photography. Because, like, once I'm like, okay, you're saying you're processing images, so you're capturing those moments. So I'm just like, so now I'm connecting up for if elude me if I'm wrong. I'm like connecting those things where I'm like, I feel like you're taking control from my perspective, that you're taking control of those moments where you felt like, okay, I feel this large weight on my shoulders. I need to apply myself into something so I don't feel this pressure as much. That's what I from my frame of, from my frame of mind, what I'm picking up from. Is that like true to where you're alluding to?
I would say a little bit.
Okay.
With photography,
Mm-hmm.
it's one, it's a way to pay the bills.
Yeah.
And two, it's something that I'm good at, I think. So, if I can combine those two things where I'm doing something where, it's not too much stress on me,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm able to, pay my bills and, sustain a living, I think that's where the happiness comes in, because, if, everything is, calm and, peaceful,
Mm-hmm.
then with I can have my bad days, where I have,
Mm-hmm.
mental health crises or, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but you know, if I'm still putting in the work,
Mm-hmm.
doing what I need to do, then
Mm-hmm.
everything's fine.
Wow. So, like, especially like with your photography, like, what is your creative, unique style? Like, what is your style of photography? Like, you feel like, oh, I got this by the horn. Like, this is my style. Like, this is what I do. So, what type of style you do,
I
if
do
you don't mind me
portraiture.
asking?
I do
Really?
portraiture. People.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, I like to focus on that. I don't like, I don't knock the nature photographers.
Yeah.
I tried that when I was just starting out. I was like, I'm gonna take some nature photos and I'm gonna sell them,
Mm-hmm.
to stock websites, and
Mm-hmm.
I was trying anything and everything to make money under the sun. Uh,
Wow.
but it wasn't working. And
Okay.
then I had a coworker, in the military,
Mm-hmm.
and she was like, "I'm getting married. Um, I know you like to take photos. Would you be able to take photos? Photographers are expensive out here." And at the time we were what, E2, E3.
Mm-hmm.
Making, you make your BH, at
Yeah.
station,
Mm-hmm.
but still that money's not enough. It's not
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah.
So I was like, I can do that. I can take photos of you, and they
Mm-hmm.
turned out to be the first wedding photos I ever took. Yep,
Wow,
as an E2 or E3. I don't even remember. It was early in my career.
man. So what from my understanding, Like you try to take like nature, landscapes, and I think from what I'm hearing from your story, in which like I'm enjoying it because now it's like I can close my eyes and actually build the picture and build the scenes. Whereas like okay, I accumulated this skill set. Now I could apply that skill set from the trials and errors and see where I can go from here. And I think portrait style, like especially like trying to capture the person at the right lens or like the right angle, lighting,
Right.
shadow, contrast, all that good stuff. I think that's like a bit difficult. Like within nature, like nature's like once in the moment right there. Like you gotta either capture it there or you gotta camp out for days. Like
Yeah.
what was the movie Ben Stiller did when he went to
Walter
go
Mitty.
travel. Yes, yes, I love that movie. I love that movie. But yes, that like that's the part that like wow, like dude was there like for 3 days and 3 nights, like waiting for this particular snow leopard and like taking the moment and then take the shot. So I was just like, wow, just like so that's probably like it's a I guess a romanticized version because of movies, of course, but I could assume that like that's how photographers or creative artists feel. Like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna take in this moment, split
Yeah.
second, and I'm back into reality. So like, tell us about that moment from your first photography to your most recent while you're traveling like that breathe in moment. Can you walk us through that one?
Yeah. So it doesn't happen. It didn't happen the first few times that I took photos.
Yeah.
Um, I wish I could show you on screen. It'd be hilarious. Um, no offense to the people I took photos for beforehand.
Yeah.
When I
Yeah.
first started, that
Mm-hmm.
was me just starting.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for the support and everything. I wish honestly I could take those photos over, um, because some people's photos, that I took in my early on career, early on days of photography, I
Yeah.
wish I could take over. There would be way 10 times better now.
Wow.
But I do, I love the support, these people trusted me to take these photos and, absolutely loved them, which is great. But, I think that, I'm very critical of myself. And so when I look back on those photos, I'm like, man, I could have did this differently. If I would
Oh.
have, had this lens or had this camera, you know, oh, it'd been different.
Oh man, I'm going through that. Like, well, I'm learning along the way, but I'm going through that. I'm like, dang, if only I can ask this question, or if I should have practiced more, like looking more directly to the camera, or just try to like know my distance or how far, how close I should be towards the mic. Like, I could definitely agree with you. Like being like your own worst critic, where it's like everyone's like, oh, that's
Right.
really dope, and I'm like, no, man, I could have done way better. And I think that's a good positive drive behind it, where it's like I gotta improve. I'm willing to learn and willing to understand from my mistakes.
Right.
And like from your works, because I could see it from like I'm like, oh wow, like whoa, like from the wedding photos, from like this beautiful couple that you took with the like the groom is holding the bride, and like doing like the little like salsa tip ensemble, and you just got her like smiling with the flower coming out. Like I'm being very descriptive because I'm like I know which photo I'll say like photo number 36, like just wow, that's a little excessive, but I'm just like getting in tune to it because it's like I get very passionate, especially like looking into things and being open to understanding like, hey, why are you doing this? Like, let me into your thoughts or let the audience into your thoughts, and like you being vulnerable, sharing like those intimate moments of like mental health, like your closeness with your family, your experience with photography. um I think like I think it could ring bells for many people, especially those who like willing to be their own entrepreneurs. Because I know you're your own businessman. You own your own company. You own your own work. You're working for yourself. Tell us about the rise and fall, like, the pros and cons, the success and the challenges that comes into being your own boss?
Well, one thing that I'm
Mhm.
still working on
Yeah.
is you know, really setting that schedule, you know, and an expectation for yourself.
Hmm.
Like you said earlier in the podcast about um, when we were in A school, we were always on time, or we never were late really. Um, but I struggle with being late. Well, that's someone else was my boss. You
Hmm.
know, someone else. I had to, meet that expectation. I had to be there at a certain time. They want something from me at a certain time and place. With being my own boss, with photography, I tell clients, expect your photos, 2-3 weeks, or depending on the event,
Hmm.
if there's a higher deadline, expected by the state, and that gives me time to have the creative flow, and not burn myself out. But also,
Hmm.
it gives me a lot of time that I struggle with basically being able to put a deadline on different things, because when working for yourself, you're okay to be like, what, hey, like this, we can make it on this day. But for working for someone else, they expect it, a certain day. They expect it, when they say.
Hmm.
So being very critical of yourself is the hardest part of working for yourself. I might take that 2-hour lunch break when I should only take 30 minutes. You know, um, that's the hardest part. Hardest part is doing stuff.
Rich, like, how many photos do you take, like, if when people are hiring you for like a very special event, such as like weddings or parties or like, intimate or extravagant events? Like, how many photos do you take on average, along with your
Uh,
editing process?
well, it's very different. I do photography a little bit differently than other photographers do.
Okay.
What I do is I take all the photos, which, say, for a wedding, I estimate probably 1,500,
Okay.
1,500 photos. Um, and so on average for a wedding, I usually get booked for 8 hours. So 1,500 photos, 8 hours. I only edit about 200 photos for that. And the way that I've found to mitigate myself from feeling stressed about actually, going through these photos, I allow the
Hmm.
couples to do it. Um, I allow them to, select and like, favorite the photos that they want edited, so
Hmm.
that, one, their expectations are met. Because if I edit 200 photos of, my liking,
Hmm.
I might miss one of the photos. They're like, I really wish that photo was edited. I keep it simple for myself. A lot of people, they're like, no, they can't see the unedited photo. Um, it helps me sleep at night.
I still think, like, even having like 200 edited photos along it with, like, especially if they book you for that allotted time, they'll probably be like, hey, we would like also a video along with it. So I'm just like, wow, this guy's juggling a lot, in which it gives me an appreciation, especially, like, if I'm booking a photographer or a creative artist to do for my personal, like, goals or milestones. Even for me now, just learning how to work with the camera, how to get a video, how to budget myself, and like you just really take things into account. Where like just like as you told me over a couple of months ago, like, hey, bro, just hit record. What's the worst thing that could happen? You messing up on your first one, you'll get it right on your 30th one. So just keep it going. So even now, like I had to always like take that to consideration. Like, I can't compare myself to others, but I can take in advice from those who have more experience than I do in the cinematic view, or have more experience than I do in, like, you know what, hey, maybe you should put yourself in this angle. Maybe that will help you with your profile. And seeing your work, and I always alluded to your work, and I always like, have a fond of appreciation of you now. Because like before, I'm like, okay, yeah, in the military, like, a lot of us were sticklers. A lot of us were kind of jerks, and no pun intended. But just like even now, just like, okay, yeah, we're human. We're like, we go through things like any other individuals. And seeing how you put in the work and put in the effort, and not only putting the work, but you're bringing your family along with you into those journeys. Because I could also picture the car rides and driving across countries, but also taking in those special moments when you stop in, like, very, like, world renowned areas like Grand Canyon, or seeing like the big trees, or seeing like, beautiful landscapes that you can take in with your family.
Yeah, it's it's definitely an adventure. Traveling cross
Mm-hmm.
country, being able to see, like the national parks.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you know, but being a veteran, you get a lifetime pass for all the national parks, so you can enter them for free.
Oh yeah, yeah. Share that info to all our federal veterans, because if I know this, I'm going to utilize, because free is for me. It's
Yeah, so
like,
you
hey
just
man,
show.
I signed that dotted line. Dang it.
Yeah, you show your DD-214 and your ID, um, and you get lifetime pass for all the national parks. Some places even include camping for free. Depending on the park,
Wow. Okay.
it's very useful.
I know you camped. How
Hmm.
is that? How's that experience? Because I know if I hear a bump or a growl or a break at the night, I'm running straight to the car. Just know that. Like if I can't see you and it's pitch black, just know I'm running to the car.
So I've camped before when I was younger.
Uh-huh.
I haven't camped outside of my tiny home in a tent in a long time. Um,
Wow.
yeah, so I I I did the same soundproofing that a music studio does to the
Mm-hmm.
walls,
Mm-hmm.
of my van. So I could be inside my van, talking on the phone, and no one really can hear. Um,
Okay.
because that's worrisome, if people know you're in your car, basically.
That's dope to hear. Like, I commend you for, like, traveling and taking that commitment with you and your family. Like, I wouldn't think the average citizen would do that, but like, I know I could just close my eyes and picture like the beautiful moments, not the, like, okay, like the annoyance nuances, but the moments where, like, hey, you see this beautiful valley, hey, we can go get pancakes in this, like, no, nice renowned diner, just going through those experiences. But like, Bobby, I think you're an incredible human being, and I feel like the audience, like, got a little bit more glimpse of you, the human you, like, the man behind the lens. I know you're a very
Yeah.
big advocate for mental health, but especially like for men's mental health. I know, like, even though we have some pros and cons in the military, I'm very proud to serve with you.
Thanks,
to
thanks.
knowing that, like, we've overcome. And do you have any last sharing thoughts to share with the audience in regards of their passions?
Well, I think life is too short to not do something you're passionate about. If you're, working, a dead end job where there's no growth, there's just, hey, I make this on the 15th, make this on the 1st. Um, and you have something that you really want to do, I would say go do it. I was in the military, and there's a progression, scale. You can make E6, E7, whatever. But that really takes time. With what I do now with photography, you know, um, I could easily go from maybe I make 3-4 thousand a month, but then next month I'm at 10K. That's that's the beauty of doing something you're passionate about and being able to control that growth.
Thank you, Bobby, for sharing that inspiring insight. Um, my peoples, please follow Bobby Williams. Follow the Seattle photographer. Follow. That's his Instagram name. Hit up Bobby if you need some really good work, especially like if you on the West Coast, if you're around the south of the border, like hit up Bobby. He'll definitely give you beautiful work. This is Not For Nothing podcast. We are on YouTube. We are on Spotify. Like, subscribe, share. Give us a good review on how we could improve. And we'll see you soon. Peace.
Pretty legit.